Thank you very much, Alistair. Yes, not the first half we were expecting or obviously hoping for. But before we start to dissect that, we will just remind you that, of course, City do have the greatest FA Cup comeback of all time already when we were 3-0 down at half-time. At that point, we went down to 10 men. We still have 11 men today. So, could
Love the
it
optimism
be?
there, that.
Right. Always find the positivity. Who says we can't score 4 goals in the second half? I'm going to be nice. I'm going to remain attempting to be positive for this. But let's dissect that first half. I'm so happy that I still have all my guests with me today, Esme, Steve and Joleon. Joleon, that was a surprise to all of us.
Yeah. Let's give some credit to Liverpool. They pressed high and forced errors. But, yeah, I didn't expect the performance or the result at half-time from City. And that's probably the more disappointing thing is the performance. Like, Liverpool can score goals, yes, we know that, but there doesn't seem to be a rhythm to the team. It just seems to be like a bit lethargic in some areas, some performances, and it's understandable because it's been an emotional and physical week. But yeah, they obviously going to need to pick it up to get something out of this game.
The first 2 goals we can definitely be disappointed about, Steve. So the first one coming in the 9th minute, Kouante, it's a corner, and then he gets up and he heads it into the net. Like the most simple goal you'll ever see, and frustrating from our point of view.
It is, but I think if there's the one thing that City probably lack is height. You know, they've got maybe John Stones, but I think that's probably it really. Nathan Ake maybe. But Liverpool have got a couple of big lads in there, so anything in there, they are going to cause a threat. He kind of just eases Jesus out the way as though he's not even there, and it's the ball goes over Nathan Ake's head and he gets a clean header on it. Goalkeeper can't do anything about that. Obviously the second one, it's disappointing. When you look at the goalkeeper, he'll be disappointed because the pass back's fine. But he takes a touch and then he looks to take another touch, which he misses the ball, and then he takes another touch and then he tries to play it. That's just far too long. You know, when you've got somebody as quick as Marnie closing you down, you've got to take a touch and you've got to get rid. And as a goalkeeper, just like a player, you've got to have what we call photographs. So when the ball comes, you've had 3 or 4 pictures in your mind of where you're going to pass it. But as a goalkeeper or as a defender, if in doubt, just get rid. And he doesn't do that. And of course, he gets caught and punished.
You saying that you've been in that position like that in your playing career? Yeah,
it was for Man City, and we played Newcastle. I think it was the first time I was back at St James's. But we had Carlo Nash, who was the goalkeeper, and he sort of said to me before the game, give me an early touch because I'm a little bit nervous. We had the kick-off. I played it back to Carlo, plenty of time. Not my fault, by the way. He took a touch, and then as he's gone to step back, he slipped. Shearer's closed him down, and obviously he kicks it against Shearer and scored. I think that's pretty much the quickest goal in Premier League history. Of course, Kevin Keegan did blame me. But the biggest thing that we had to do was get around Carlo because we knew it was a big stadium, it was a big ground, it was a big occasion. To be fair to him, he forgot it and he had a decent game. That's exactly what the City goalkeeper has to do now.
Yeah, Zach Stefan, to be fair, it doesn't seem to have affected him since, but like Steve says, Esme, he's got to pick himself up from that.
Yeah, he's got to react and sort of put it to the back of his mind. And I think it's difficult for a keeper because they have long spells where they're sort of just stood watching the game unfold, and the camera cut back to him a few times shortly after the result, and you could see him talking to himself and probably having a go at himself because he was frustrated at what had happened. But I think you've just sort of got to put it to the back of your mind and try and just focus on ensuring the next pass. And he can be helped by his teammates, as you said, with Carlo asking you to play the pass back to him. He can speak to the centre-backs and say, just give me a couple of easy passes where I've got plenty of time, so we can get back into the rhythm of playing simple and being accurate with those short-range passes.
So the first 2 we can definitely feel disappointed about, but the third one, Joleon, that's a great strike.
Oh, ridiculous. But not just the strike, the build-up play as well. They were patient. The great ball initially from Trent. He's literally on the touchline and he's got nowhere to go, and he's seen Diaz, who's been outstanding as well, switch the play, and then they've built up a little bit of momentum, kept it from some half challenges. But yeah, the strike at the end, it wasn't a clean strike, but it was precise.
What can we do? If we're going to be positive, Steve, what can we do in the second half? What do we have to, what's the attitude we need to come out with? Do we need to make any changes? What do we need to do?
I'd be surprised if the manager make changes, because he'd be basically sort of saying to the players, listen, we're in this together, but ultimately we're in this position because we haven't done what we're very good at. So get out there and kind of change things around. I always feel as though there is a chance for Liverpool, because like in the first game, they've got a very high line. And City have got lads that are quick, so it's just that good ball over the top could catch them. But just going forward, they need to be quicker, because I just felt as though it was quite slow. The build-up in the first half, it just needs to be sharper all the way around and throughout the team. If they can do that, then they might get something. But ultimately, if they start the second half like they did the first half, they'll start getting pinned back, and it could be 4. And then after that, basically for Liverpool, it's a keep ball session.
Esme, at the absolute minimum, we have to play for some pride now, because we didn't show that much fight in that first half.
Yeah, I think a bit more intent in our pressing. I think a lot of the time Liverpool have been first to every loose ball, and I think that's just maybe tiredness from the travel, but we've just got to be a bit more proactive and try and anticipate where the ball's going to drop and just be a bit firmer in the challenges, I think. And I definitely agree that we need to be a bit more direct. I think some of the passes we've played have been sort of floated into people's chests, and it's just inviting pressure from the defenders to step on and keep you forcing you back, whereas I think if we can be a bit more direct and maybe spin them in behind a couple of times, just test them in a different way. But I definitely agree with you, we can be a bit more aggressive and put the onus on them to defend against us rather than making it easy playing in front of them.
What do you think's happening in the dressing room right now, Joleon?
Listen, there won't be any finger pointing or no blaming of anybody's performance. No one means to make mistakes or underperform in terms of the usual standard, but there'll just be communication and conversations about how do we improve and how do you go out and execute what the manager wants. Listen, that won't be sitting there thinking it's over, but they'll know the task ahead of them is huge, and it'll have to be a near enough perfect half to get back into this game, and that's if Liverpool come out with a lackadaisical thought process, which I don't see happening. But yeah, listen, it's going to be difficult, but it's just a professional performance now. Like you said, there's games to play for, there's performances, and there's spots in the team to play for in the future.
It's a really different performance from last Sunday, Steve, and also from midweek as well. Do you think those previous games have taken it out of us a bit, or do you think that this is credit to Liverpool in this game?
I think a bit of both, to be quite honest. I think obviously it was a tough game for City against Atletico, obviously the travel as well. You look at the fact that Liverpool were at home during the week, they managed to rest 7 players, which is a lot, still go through as well. So yeah, the little things help, and of course we all know it's a big occasion, the semi-final, but they start the game very well, Liverpool, and they get the goal, an early goal, and that gives everybody a lift. Of course, people they're sort of saying there it's warm out there. Yes, that can psychologically get into your mind when you're 1-0 down, 2-0 down. You're thinking, wow, this is going to be a long afternoon. But as Joleon said, the manager be in there. There won't be finger pointing. It would be a case of like, listen, this could get away from us here, because they'll want blood, in all fairness. They'll want to think, well, we can make a massive example here. It's up to Man City to come out and be far better than what they were the first half.
We've not had any chances in that first half, Esme. Liverpool have had 3 and have scored 3. So if we come out with a clinical attitude and mindset, we could still get back into this.
Well, I think with the exception of Liverpool's third goal, they've not really torn us apart and created anything clear-cut. They're quite like innocuous chances, really. They've come out of nowhere, just a mistake and then a corner. So I think those sorts of things where it's not even with the flow of the game, if we can have a couple of those moments in our favour, then it only takes us producing 1 or 2 clear-cut chances of our own to actually come back into the game. So I think there's plenty of reason for optimism. There will be spells in the game where both teams dominate, and hopefully when our time comes, we'll be able to take advantage of it.
Thank you for sending in your WhatsApp questions as well, as always. We've had a good one here that I think fits the conversation. Joleon, Casey's asked, how much does pressure affect players in games like these?
It can do, yeah, but again, it's understanding what type of player you are, and do you rise to that pressure? Listen, every player is different, and speaking about occasions like this, you often get asked the question, do you treat this as another game, or is it a cup final? I just think it's important you recognise what it is for you and how you motivate yourself. So if it is, you play up to the occasion and it's a cup final, then do that. And if it's not, if it's a bit more subdued approach, then you also take that as well. So yeah, pressure can have a huge impact. I think confidence is a bigger factor. I think if you're high in confidence, then you feel faster, stronger, and opposite if you're not so high in confidence. So it'll be difficult for Zach Steffen now coming out, but I'm sure he's been in similar situations, because as a defender and a goalkeeper, you make a mistake, it tends to lead to a goal. So I'm sure we could be able to draw on past experiences and hopefully put that behind him.
So you said earlier, Steve, you don't think of any changes at half-time. Looking at who's on the subs bench into the second half, who do you think could come on to make a difference? Or who would you bring on? And at what point of the game would you do it?
Oh, wow. Triple. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you've got to look at how is Kevin De Bruyne. Is he fit enough, really? Would you want to risk him? Because, you know, listen, there's still a chance. But realistically, if you're being honest, can you see Man City getting back and winning 4-3 and Liverpool conceding 4 goals? Probably not. So therefore, would you risk him? Of course, there's Mahrez there, and we all know how good he is, and you know he can turn games. So you'd be looking at like some Mahrez, but then the manager might think, well, look, I might even give the young lads a little bit of a sort of get out there, get a bit of experience. So there could be a great opportunity for them.
Or Diaz, even the fact that he hasn't played for such a long time, he might think, you know what, in preparation for the games coming ahead. In the next coming weeks, you may get some minutes. So, as I said, Steve said, it's going to be difficult to get back into this game, but there's so many ways you could use this second half to gain an advantage going forward.
It's going to be difficult, but we've done it before. Can we do it again? Stick with the City app for the second half. You'll get the commentary from Alistair Mann, the best place to get your commentary. We will all be back, whatever the score is, at full time to dissect whatever happens. Hopefully, we're talking about Manchester City putting on a performance full of pride, full of battle, full of resilience. And hey, who knows, maybe we'll be talking about the greatest FA Cup comeback of all time. Right, Alistair, back to you.
Well, thanks, Natalie. So where were you on Wednesday, the 4th of February 2004? Were you at White Hart Lane? Were you perhaps watching the game on television? Well, wherever you were,